I'm Josh Osborne. I'm the product manager for the CI tools here in a little bit rainy Auckland. And today's webinar is just a sort of general going over some things about the CI tools that you might not know and that sort of thing. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of things to do with the Cabinets tool and also very briefly something on the Doors+Windows tool. Most of the topics that I'm covering today are things that have just come up recently in support tickets and that sort of thing that sound like this sort of thing that people might want to know about but don't know about necessarily. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. If you do have any suggestions for other things you'd like covered in these though, do let me know and I can schedule those in for future webinars of these. We're going to take about 25 to 30 minutes today just to cover off what we're looking at and do some questions at the end, and the recording of this session will be available on my CI next week once it's been edited and uploaded there. So you can refer back to that later if you wanted to review it or show someone else or something like that. I'm going to be using a CAD 24 today, but most of the things that I'm going to show you today also apply in 23. The versions before 23 have a quite different, the older version of the Cabinets tool. So a lot of what you're seeing today doesn't apply to older versions than 23, although some of their concepts will in general. So it will still be of use if you're using an older version still. And if you have any questions or any feedback about the webinar, just enter those in the questions panel as we go, and I'll try to answer those when we get to the end. It doesn't have to be about anything that I've shown during this webinar, just if you think of anything or have any questions about the CI tools or things that you want to get shown, I can hopefully look over that. But yes, hoping to get finished up by about 2 o'clock New Zealand time so that those of you who are heading off early for your long weekend or something can do that. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to look at is the Cabinets tool. And the first thing I want to just very quickly look at is the display options for the Cabinets tool, which are not necessarily obvious how those work. So I'm just going to quickly show you how those work, and then I'm going to look at creating some custom elements for the cabinets. So first of all, I'm just using the default CI cabinet object here. You can see it there. And I'm just going to look at the way that the 2D bits, the way that the sort of markup on the cabinet works. So if I go to the attributes, if I go to the modules section here, you can see I've got it set up a certain way. At the moment, it's a left door with a flat panel on the front and a recessed handle. And if I place this and have a look at it, you can see that I've got my my front door is attached there, and it's got the dashed lines to show where the hinge side is. But you can actually change the way that works. I know that our friends in Australia, in certain places in Australia at least, use a different direction for the way that the hinge line is applied. And so the way that you can control that is by going into the model view options and looking at the cabinets section here. It's worth having a look at this, even if you're not interested in changing that, because you can control a lot of the way that the cabinet actually looks in this dialog here. So you can see on the options under CI cabinets, we've got display of whether you want to show the opening lines at all. You can see under this, we're under this model views heading at the moment. So these are controlling the section elevation in 3D views, and the plan view settings here control obviously the plan view settings for it. So toggling the options here only apply to 3D and section elevation. You can turn on or off the opening lines, showing shelves as dashed lines, ticking this box here, and you can also choose whether you want them to be detailed or just to show a simple line. And you can also show labels on module fronts using this tick box here. You can set the door and drawers to always be shut in your model views. If that's something you want to do, this defaults to on, so that everything is shut by default, but you can turn that off if you want to have some of your drawers open in 3D and that sort of thing. And then you can control the opening lines here. So the drawers will draw just a diagonal line, but you can change that to a V or a cross or nothing. And then the doors are set up to draw at the handle side for that opening angle line there, but you can change that to the hinge side instead if you want to. So that's the way that you control what that looks like there. So if I just hit OK now, did that change? I can't remember what it looked like before. Cabinets, hinge side, handle side. Yeah, that did change. So that's how you control that. But before we leave that, I just want to go over some of the other things you can control using this, because there's quite a lot of things that you can do in here to make your model views look different. Obviously, we've got the maximum length there, and then we've got our plan view controls. So you can control the plan view cut height, which will let you control where the slice of the cabinet that you see in your floor plan view is taken from. So if you need it to be above or below a certain height to see certain things, that's how you can control that. It defaults to 800. You can also turn on a reflected ceiling plan option just to make it suit those kinds of views, and choose if you want to show the unit partitions there. And then you can also control whether you want the doors to be showing as open, or if you want your sliders to be showing as open, you can control those there. Got some attribute settings in here as well, which lets you just do exactly what you'd imagine. You can just set the attributes for the various things that we toggled on and off in the previous tab. And then graphic editing just lets you change what the edit palette looks like. And if you're still using some of the older cabinet objects, this legacy objects area here controls the way those elements work. But if you make any changes to any of these settings here, they're not going to make any changes to the new cabinet object. So if you're still using 22 or older, or if you're still using the old cabinet inside 23 and 24, this is where you'll come to control similar options to what you can see here. So that's the model view options for the cabinets. The main one, obviously, that came in that I heard about this week was just changing the direction of that hinge or handle line. There's plenty of control there. The next thing I wanted to look at was making custom elements for your cabinets, which is something that we occasionally get people requesting if they can have a certain type of handle or a certain type of door or something like that. And you can actually do that by yourself to make whatever it is that you would need to have in there. We have a variety of handles and fronts already in the cabinet, but you can make your own to suit whatever you need it to. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to do that. So to start with, I'm going to make a custom front or a custom door for the cabinet. And so to do that, I'm going to grab the slab tool, and I'm going to draw the custom front in floor plan as if I was looking at it in elevation view. So I'll come in here and I'll just draw a rectangle, and then using slab editing, I'm just going to, obviously whatever you draw will not look like this, but I'm just going to make some changes so that it is easy to see that I have selected it. Obviously you can do whatever you would normally do to a slab using this. You can cut shapes into it, you can make it a custom shape entirely, any of that sort of thing. Make your slab look however you want it to, and then just go to the File menu and head to Libraries and Objects, and then go Save Selection As. Once you pop out Save Selection As, you'll see that there's a couple of sort of very specific types down at the bottom here. And what we want in this case is a cabinet door. So I'm going to click Cabinet Door. It asks me where I want to save this because it's going to turn this into an object. So for now, I'm going to stick it in the embedded library, so it'll just be local to this project. But if you don't want to do that, you could make a new folder outside of this project and save it as a object that way. but I'm going to stick with internal here, and I'm just going to call it cab door 1 and hit save. And that will think for a second, and then it will tell you that it has done the thing that you wanted it to, and you can hit OK. Now if I come back over to our cabinet here, looking at the front here, because that's what we're going to control the way that the door looks like with. You can see at the moment I've got flat panel selected, so I'm just going to open up the front settings, and I'm going to create a new module type here. I'm going to call it custom front. That's fine. And then under shape, I'm going to set that to custom cabinet door. And as soon as I do that, it's going to look for any saved cabinet doors in this project. And in this case, there weren't any at all before, and now there is one, so it's defaulted to that one, and you can see the preview of it there. So I've saved that as custom front. Now if I pop back up to the modules view, you'll see that this hasn't changed yet because I haven't actually applied it. So I'm just going to select this and then choose custom front. Obviously you can call that module whatever you want it to. And you can now see that the door of my cabinet is the shape of the slab that I just drew up. And you can see that it has just used the exact shape. It doesn't lay anything behind it or anything. So if you have holes drawn into your slab or anything like that, those will all show up. So you can make it really do whatever it is that you need it to. And then once you apply that to it, it'll look correct in 3D and everything like that. So you can see we've got our door there. And obviously it has taken the shape of this thing that we drew up here. It's a little bit hard to tell on this one because there's not much to do, but it will essentially squish the shape to fit the size of your cabinet door there. So if you do this and find that it gets messed up in terms of the proportion of the shape that you drew, it's most likely just because the shape that you drew was in a different proportion than the cabinet itself is set to. So you need to either draw your door front in the ratio that you want your actual door to be, or just modify the size of your cabinet so that it fits what you want there. And then what it will do, the tool won't let you make a door that is smaller than the area that it provides for that door. So you'll need to make sure that that gets done on the creation of the object side. So that's a custom door. You can also create custom handles for cabinets as well, which is another one that comes up a lot. And this also means that, of course, if you get say a 3D model of a specific cabinet handle that you want to use, you can use that as well if you've got that imported into ArchiCAD, but you can also draw up your own. I'm just going to go with a slab again, so it's nice and easy to see what we're doing, and I'm just going to draw sort of our two overlapping squares like this. And I'm going to do the same thing as before, so go File, Libraries and Objects, Save Selection As, and this time I'm going to choose the option for a knob here, not handle. Handles are used for doors and windows, doors and windows handles, but the knob is for the cabinet handles. So we come in here, again, we get the same option about where we want to save the object. I'm going to go with the embedded library, and I'm going to call it handle 1. And I'll save that, and it thinks for a second again, and then it will tell us that it has done the thing we asked it to. And now if I go ahead and select my cabinet again, go to the handles, and create a new handle type. If I can spell that. Under shape, choose custom knob, and you'll see that handle 1 again, because there weren't any custom handles in the project, it has selected that by default. You can choose how you want it to be applied, and then obviously again these were square before, but it has squished it into the shape that has been allowed for it, which in this case is 90 by 32. So it has made it look like that. You can resize that here though to make it look more the way that it was when you drew it. So that's square now. And now if I go back up to the modules, I can select that handle and hit OK. And if I show you that in 3D, you should see that our nice new handle is placed on the front of the cabinet there. So that will let you create, again, just basically whatever you want. Obviously, this one here was also made out of multiple elements as well, so you can do that. It doesn't have to just be a single slab or something like that. You can model up exactly what the shape is of the thing that you need, and then apply that as your custom handle, and away you go. So using the two of those together, you should be able to create pretty much whatever kind of handle and door type you would want to do using the cabinets tool. Obviously, if you have a sort of a fairly frequently used handle or cabinet door type that you can make using a custom type but you think would be useful to be built into the tool, just let us know about that, because we're always wanting to put in new ways of making the tool more useful to more people and making it to be able to draw a wider range of different cabinet types. So if you do have requests about different types of things you want added, let us know about those. But this does give you the option to just sort of on the fly make whatever you need and apply it to your cabinet as you go. All right. Okay, that only took us 15 minutes. So the other thing I was going to very quickly show was just some things to do with the Doors+Windows tool. Two things in particular. First of all, was just wanting to show something about the way that sliding doors work, in particular how the arrows for them work. And this is just essentially it's just showing you where a setting is. But I've come across one or two people who didn't know about didn't know about the fact that you could control this even, or where you do it. So I'm just going to quickly show you how the control for the arrows on sliders works. So if I come in here and I draw up a sliding door, I'm just going to make a surface slider. Set that to 2. So you can see when I place the slider, it draws these little orange half arrows showing the direction that the door slides. You can actually control the way that those look. So if you just open your door settings again and head to the plan view, the display options in the settings here, you'll see that there's this section here just below hinged door symbol. You've got plan view arrow symbol for sliders. And at the moment it's set to half arrow linear. So you can see it's a linear arrow, which is just half of the arrowhead, and you can control the way that that works. There's a couple of options though. You can have it not show anything at all. You can have a full linear arrow. You can have a polygonal arrow, which is just a half, or a full polygonal arrow, and it has full controls for the way that those work. So if I hit OK, you can see that it changes to show those. Now if I go into 3D and look at my sliders, doesn't look like they're showing any at the moment. Any arrows, that is. So let's have a look at the settings for that. So if I just jump back into the settings again, and go to model display, you can see at the moment it's set to show a half arrow linear, so the same as what the floor plan view was. Just going to change that to polygonal, and you can see up here at the moment it's set to use the model view options to control all of these settings. And I'm just going to override this by changing it to use local settings instead, and then we can choose which way the arrow is showing and what it looks like, which is controlled over here. Dashed lines, you can see the dash value and the pen color, so you can make that whatever it is you want it to do. And at the moment, it's only showing in section and elevation, which is why we couldn't see it in 3D. So I'm just going to tick that box there and hit OK. And as soon as I do that, you can see that I now have arrows showing in my 3D view as well. And that was controlled using the settings in the Draw and Window tool settings itself. But you do have the option to use model view options and have that control them instead. So if I go into my options, sorry, my document menu, go to model view, and look at the setting here. It's unfortunately not fitting on my screen. I should have checked this before, but it's sorry, I can't show this because I'm on my laptop instead of my big screen at the moment, so you can't actually see the setting, but it's in this opening line in 3D section here. You can set the way that the way that it looks in 2D up here by setting the line type and the pen color, and then down below under opening line in 3D, you can set the way that it shows in your 3D view as well, which if you could just get your cursor down there, which hopefully you can do on your computer, you'll be able to change those settings and then hit OK, and that will control that setting. But obviously you can just override it inside the tool itself, like we did in the first place. So that's just showing the arrows on your sliders. Now, the last thing I want to do before we finish up and look at some questions is to just very quickly look at drawing up corner windows. It's something that I've had people ask about recently, and I'm not sure if it's something that people generally know that you can actually do using the Doors+Windows tool. So I'm just going to very quickly draw up a corner window so you can see how to do it. It's nice and easy. So I've got a set of walls here, and I'm going to draw a window that I want to be in the corner over here. So I'm just going to go and grab my window tool. Okay, and I'm just going to use the default settings. I'm going to place a window here and a window here. And you can see at the moment, obviously, there's this big chunk of wall in the middle. And if I were to drag these out so that they met in the corner, we would have a large chunk of frame showing at the corner instead, which is kind of part way there, but it's not really what we're after. So there we go, you can see they're both drawn out to the corner as you would expect, but we have a big chunk of frame there, which we don't want. We just want to have a nice corner window that goes all the way around. So the way that you do that is to essentially to just control the way that the edge is drawn. Doors+Windows default to draw edges around all four sides, but we're going to change that so that we don't draw it on one side. So the way that we do that is by going into the menu here and going to, sorry, I've forgotten where it is, shape is where it is. And we're looking for the setting called join adjacent. So at the moment the head is set to frame, left and right jambs are both set to frame, and the sill is set to frame as well. And there's a couple of different options you can choose here, but what we want is a glass joint. So I'm not sure which way around we're looking at the moment, so I'm going to set the left jamb to be a glass joint. And that was right, so you can see that the left side is now, oh, sorry, the right from our view at the moment, is now a just an angle with no frame in the end. And now if I choose the second window and do the same, we should get a nice mitre at the corner there with no frame. Now I think this one will probably be the right, but I could very well be wrong on that. Yes. So it's drawn it at the other side, which is not what I wanted. So I'll just quickly head back in and flip those around. Okay, so you can see in the corner now we've got a nice smooth line of just the glass going all the way around and no frame showing. And if we look in 3D, we should see the same is happening there. So that's pretty much all you need to do to create that. Is just draw your windows down to whatever they want to be, draw them out until they meet in the corner, and then set those join adjacent settings to be glass joints there. And you can use that to cover a variety of different things as well. You could use a glass joint on the sill if you don't want it to create a frame there for some reason, or on the head, so that you could have sort of a floating sheet of glass at the top or something like that. There's quite a few different situations you could use that sort of thing if you needed to. We're just about at 2 o'clock, so if you do have any questions, please enter those in the questions panel now, and if I can do, I will answer those while we're online. If you did have any questions that aren't related to what we've shown today as well, that's totally fine too. If you didn't have any questions, which is looking like the case though, if you do think of anything later on, please email us at nz.support@centralinnovation.com, and that'll come through to our support desk. If you've got questions about the way the tools work or on how to do certain things, we can help you with that. If you've got suggestions about future webinar topics or suggestions about future things you'd like us to build into the tools, that's the right place for those as well. Those will all come through to me eventually. So if you have just anything at all that you want to ask us and the technical team, send them through to there and we'll help you out. But it looks like that's all we have for today. Thanks everyone very much for joining. I hope you all have a good long weekend and you don't have to work through it. And I will catch you at the next webinar next Thursday at the same time. Thank you.